Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Barbarians, The Invasion, and it's from Tabula Games. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. You can do that by following the links in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Those will take you to the page. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go there, find out more information, and hopefully consider backing the project. Now, Barbarians, The Invasion is a massive game where you are taking control of a mythical barbarian clan in this world, sort of mixing fantasy with some sort of real-life elements of how actual barbarian Viking clans would have been in our world, but not quite Vikings. And you're trying to spread out and dominate with your clan over the others. But how you're doing it is with some interesting Eurogame-style mechanisms, but still with combat, because it is a game about barbarians. There's a lot to this game, so there's not even any point in me rambling more about it now. It's better if I just show you with a prototype preview copy of the game. So do note that what you're about to see is not final. In fact, most pointedly, there are going to be high-quality miniatures in the final version, replacing, I think, almost all of the wooden tokens for the players that you're about to see. So do bear that in mind and go to the Kickstarter page and see pictures of what the final versions will look like. But this will give you some idea of what the game is going to play like. Then we're going to come back, we'll discuss it further. Barbarians, The Invasion is a competitive game for 2 to 4 players. You need to lead your clan to victory over the other clans by gaining the most domination points. The game ends either after the 7th era or at the end of any era where at least one player crossed 100 points. Lay out the main game board and the map to the side. The map will be populated with faction tokens and conquer tiles. Each player chooses one of the faction colors and takes all the components for it. A game board, tokens representing troops, champions, and banners. Every player puts troop tokens on the honor and domination track, the 3 spots of their resource spaces, the 2 spots of their troop spaces, and every player will get to either gain 2 ranks in 1 knowledge or 1 rank in 2 knowledges. Lastly, each player gets a random card from the God deck. Set up the volcano on the main board, which consists of several levels that can be adjusted. Place all 4 demon cards out on the board in random order in their spaces and in between randomized feast cards. There are several different decks of cards: gods, war chiefs, buildings, and 4 regions. Shuffle them each independently. Flip 2 cards off the god and war chief decks and 3 off the building deck. Almost every era of the game has 3 phases. The first phase is maintenance, which you will skip for the first era. Any activated card you use gets flipped back from horizontal to vertical to show that it's ready again. Then, any buildings you have can be activated, assuming your building knowledge is high enough. You'll turn the card sideways and adjust your resource tracks for what they'll be producing for you. The second phase is the action phase. In order of the stack on the honor track, from top to bottom, and it's randomized at the beginning of the game, players will take turns performing actions. You take one of your champions and place it on one of the volcano spaces, then perform the action. You must start on the central wheel with your first champion, but then can place champions on the other wheels moving outward, so long as the action space is connected to the last action space you placed the dude on. There are many types of actions. Many of the spaces are resources. When you take the action, gain the indicated resources and adjust your tracks upward. You can also erect a building. Choose one of the available face-up buildings, pay the resource cost in the top left corner, and place it in your play area. Another action is invoking, either a god or a war chief. Invoking a god gets you a few resources, and you can take a god card from the face-up supply to a limit of 3. You can pray and activate one of these gods for a special power as indicated on the card, and then turn it sideways to show that it's been used. Invoking a war chief is a bit different. Choose one of the available cards, pay a gold, and advance your counter on the honor track. If the counter passes any of the milestones, you'll immediately gain the indicated bonuses. War chiefs you've gained can be used in 2 ways. In battle, activate them and rotate them to pay the troop indicated. Or you can sacrifice a war chief to immediately activate the special effect on their card. War is of course one of the pivotal aspects of the game, so there is an action symbol for that. First, recruit more troops if you wish, by paying the resources and moving the markers on 1, 2, or 3 if you did so. Then, choose a region on the map, which must either be adjacent to the starting region in the top left corner, or adjacent to another conquered region. The region should not be conquered already, and you have to have high enough barbarian knowledge to do this. Once you determine the area you'll be targeting, shuffle the region cards corresponding to that area and start battles by flipping a card over. You'll have to have a number of these equal to your tactical knowledge in that particular faction. Each depicts the number of troops and their type you have to pay up to surmount the card. If you can't pay the troops or don't want to, it's a failure for you, and you'll have to take a penalty depending on the faction. For instance, the Shan faction will force you to lose 1 gold and 1 stone. or risk losing domination points. You can, however, use the defensive track to avoid the penalties for the Battles of One War, depending on how many ranks you have on that track. Some cards you defeat have rewards. Some also have overkill, which means if you spend the extra indicated troops over and above what you need, you'll get the domination points indicated as a bonus. If you end up winning at least half the battles rounded up, you conquer the region. Take the faction token, get points equal to the number on it plus the number in the circle on the region, and replace the token on the region with your own banner. If you're the first person to conquer a region on an island, you also get to take the first conquer title for more points. The blue and yellow scrolls in the volcano allow you to gain knowledge on the barbarian knowledge or tactics knowledge tracks, respectively. Being the first or second player to get to the end of any of these tracks may get you a bonus. There are 4 barbarian knowledge tracks. The discovery track will let you travel to further and further regions for war. Being the first to get to the end of the track gets you bonus domination points equal to the number of regions you control times 2. The defense track, as noted before, can protect you from the effects of failed battles. Getting to the end of the track first nets you bonus points equal to twice the number of tracks you already maximized. The economy track enhances the amount of resources you get from the resource action spaces on the volcano. Getting to the end first gets you 2 points for every set of 3 food, wood, and stone that you have. And the production track lets you activate a building for every rank you have during the maintenance phase. If you get to the end of this track before the other players, you get 2 points for every building you have built in front of you. The tactics tracks all work the same way. Each is linked to a different faction. The more ranks you have in a faction's track, the less battles you have to fight when conquering one of their regions. Each of them gives you a different bonus for reaching the end first, however. The Nefriar gives you 3 troops and 3 points. The Shan track ends in giving you 5 resources and 3 points. The Aspidian advances you on the Honor track 3 spaces and gets you 3 points. And finally, the Var lets you take the top card of either the War Chief, God, or Building deck for free, plus 3 points. There are several other less involved actions, like trading and converting resources. Finally, we have the third and final phase. Take your champions back from the volcano, then resolve the demon in the leftmost card slot. Demons demand at least 1 gold. If you pay, you're good to go. If you can't, you lose 5 domination points. Over and above that, paying gold, troops, and resources could convince the demon to give you an added benefit. On even number turns, you'll have to deal with the feast cards. Choose one of the options on the card and gain victory points. After resolving all of these, check for the endgame condition. If it's the 7th era or someone has just breached 100 points, the game is going to end, and whoever has the most points will be the winner. Points can be gained from multiple sources. 1 point for each faction token you've collected, 2 for different types of buildings, 2 for the number of maximized knowledge tracks you have, and 2 for every god card you have. Lastly, wherever your honor marker ended up, look at that space and gain the indicated points. That is Barbarians, the Invasion. Well, like I said, Barbarians, the Invasion is very interesting because you have this idea of area control and domination through combat of a sort, but what's fueling all of these different, typical sort of combat fantasy elements of the game are actually, tried and true Eurogame mechanisms. You have worker placement, where you're taking one of your people and you're putting it out on a space to gain an action. But even that's made more interesting because where you're putting them is a volcano, which mechanically speaking is actually this sort of ringed system that I would have a hard time describing, but you just saw, where they'll rotate around, and you will be able to, depending on how you place your workers, you'll be able to go out to the outer rungs and take more actions. So it can be a difficult thing to do to line up to get the best actions possible, but that's really a part of the strategy and what you need to do in order to maximize what you're doing in the game and get as many points and as many resources to get more points as you possibly can. There's also the whole aspect of the knowledge tracks, because, and you're going to use the spaces to get up on those tracks too, but that's an interesting thing to focus on, because you're moving up on those tracks is a bit of a race. As soon as you can get to the end of it, you're going to get a special bonus, but even if you don't make it there in time for the bonus, you can still get bonus points at the end just for making it to the end, even if you're not the first or second person there. But just getting up on all those different tracks makes you better at what you're doing. The Barbarian tracks give you all kinds of useful abilities. They can let you conquer further. They could increase your ability to activate buildings and therefore get more resources. And then you've got the faction tracks, the ones that are going to let you fight less battles, which is a very interesting concept. I know more about my enemy in their tactics, therefore I don't have to fight them as much, which is counterintuitive to a combat-oriented territory control game, but that's the whole point. It's that's not just what this game is. So there's a lot of irons in the fire here. I mean, this is not a simple game, and yet going through it, everything made sense. This was not a very difficult game to understand, especially if you're familiar with all these different disparate elements, and everything sort of flowed into each other. Like, it made total sense that if I do this here on one of the knowledge tracks, it's going to influence what I do here and make me better, but in order to even go up on those tracks, I have to activate one of the spaces on the volcano. The different types of troops. I mean, I could go on. There's a lot of stuff to this game. The god cards, the war chief cards. These are all just different elements, but they're all leading towards this one thing of you getting as many points as possible. It's just up to you where you want to focus, because there's a lot of areas to focus. Now, if any of this sounds appealing to you, if you like the idea of these Eurogame mechanisms being used in territory control and domination, if you like the theming of, like, not just barbarians, but mythical barbarians, if you like just this whole conglomeration of things together, the unique volcano aspect of the game for worker placement, definitely don't take my word for any of this. Go to the official Kickstarter project page and find out for yourself. See pictures of the miniatures that will be in the final version. That's super important, because you may like all these different mechanisms and be like, well, what's the final game going to look like? Go there and find out, because it's very detailed there. And hopefully you are going to consider backing the project once you do. You can follow the link in the top corner of your screen and down in the description section underneath this video. That is Barbarians: The Invasion from Tabula Games. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting our sponsors. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.